Thanks for watching PBS 39 today. You know, there's a sign as you approach Hellertown that tells you it was founded in 1742 by Christopher Heller, a pioneer and the town's first settler. Census figures tell us it's a community of about 6,000 people. But facts like that don't really tell you about Hellertown, like skating on Grist Mill Pond, or the time Amelia Earhart landed nearby. The Champion spark plug factory that was once a centerpiece of the town's community, the resurgence of the businesses on Main Street, or how the CIA may have helped a local attraction gain international attention. Oh, there are many stories I can tell you, but you don't have to listen to me. This is Our Town, Hellertown. Stories, anecdotes, and memories of people who call this place home, told entirely in their own words. Consider this patchwork quilt a history of personal reflections and a passion for their hometown. This is Hellertown. Welcome home.
There's things in this community that draw people together.
I think it's a great representation of small-town America.
It's a place of community.
It's a way of life.
I like the history, I like the people, they were friendly, and they were open.
Everything that's in Hellertown favors family-oriented activity.
Everyone knew each other. Somehow we were all related, although I never knew the connections.
We accept anyone. Anyone's willing to come and live with us, we're here.
It's just a nice town to live in.
The resources are here, parks.
We have a good school district.
Pool.
You have a library.
It has a good religious background with a variety of churches and different faiths.
We have beautiful parades.
Everything's here to raise a family. It's just wonderful.
And there's a lot of good places to eat.
So it's not just a home. It's a great place to raise a family.
I'm proud to live in Hellertown, I really am.
It's a great investment. It's a great place to open up a business and live.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, and I think it has a great future for everybody.
Our Town, Hellertown is brought to you by
Heinzelman Funeral Home, Inc., with locations in Hellertown and Schnecksville, is dedicated to providing the most respectful service to you and your family, with facilities that include multiple viewing areas, on-site crematory, and off-street parking. We are committed to developing pre-arrangement plans that fulfill your wishes. We strive to offer positive choices for your personal and financial position. For more information, 610-838-0521 or at heinzelmancares.com.
Located on Main Street in Hellertown, Advanced Optics is happy to serve their community, which they work and live in. Advanced Optics is committed to providing quality, professional, and personal eye care. For more information, advancedoptics.biz.
For over 10 years, Braveheart Highland Pub has been offering traditional Scottish and American fare with families in mind. In addition to private event space, we also offer outdoor seasonal dining. Enter as strangers, leave as friends. BraveheartHighlandPub.com.
The people of Christ Lutheran Church of Hellertown invite you to experience Christianity as a way of life. We welcome all persons without regard to race, age, gender, sexual orientation, or abilities. You are welcome here. Come join the journey.
The Hellertown Crossroads Hotel has restarted a 65-year casual dining tradition. The new owners have brought back favorites and added others, and are now open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner. Information on their Facebook page and at crossroadshellertown.com. For over 25 years, Hellertown Dental Group has served the family and cosmetic dental needs of our town. Their goal is to offer an unmatched range of services with the latest in dental technology and to do it with true patient care. More information at hellertowndentalgroup.com.
Lost River Caverns has been in business since 1930, committed to providing a unique underground experience to each of its visitors, and strives to offer fine gifts and a full line of products for all aspects of the jewelry and lapidary arts. LostCave.com. Serving pre-K3 through 8th grade, St. Teresa's School emphasizes personal growth, social responsibility, and moral character development, creating lifelong learners for the modern world. Our Catholic identity is modeled through work and example. St. Teresa's School.
Additional funding provided by Saucon Valley Bikes. PPL Corporation, premier sponsor of PBS 39's 50th anniversary events, and by viewers like you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Danner, and I'm part of the Hellertown Historical Society. Hellertown had so many great memories for people my age. I was born in Hellertown, grew up and lived on Front Street all that time. It was great because we lived right by the old high school before it became the middle school. The band used to walk down Front Street practicing. We used to hear them play I Could Have Danced All Night. That was their big song. The 5 o'clock siren in town, every kid knew you went home at 5 o'clock. That when that siren went off, it was great. You could go all around town on a bike. If you could travel anywhere, and parents just left you go on your bike and say, see you later. And it was great. You knew at 5 o'clock you were done for the day. So much fun. And skating at the Gristmill Ice Pond when I was a kid. They used to freeze it over in the winter time, and they'd open up what it now is the tavern room at the Gristmill. They had a little warming hut. You could get hot chocolate, but you go out and just skate, and it was great fun. Everyone went down. That's where you had fun in the wintertime.
I'm Earl Rice, and I'll be talking about when I was young, about going to the movies in Hellertown. Years ago, they had the movies at the Legion. We used to go there, and they had the Looney Tunes, and they had the Fox News, and then they had the chapter of Buck Jones or Cowboy chapters. They ran around 15 weeks, and naturally we kids have to see this every week, so we'd come every week, and it only cost us 10 cents a piece, and 1 week my friend would pay for the movies, and the next week I'd pay for them. They had a balcony there, and we kids used to love to go up on the balcony and sit up there and watch the movie. And all the girls were up there.
My name is Lee Widener. I'm a Hellertown native. Think 1926 to 1946. Morris Dimmick became elected as the Chief Burgess of Hellertown and served during the difficult time of the Great Depression and World War II. Behind me is Dimmick Park, which Morris Dimmick acquired from the Bethlehem Steel Company, and in 1933 he was able to achieve funds from the Franklin Roosevelt administration in Washington, D.C., who sponsored the WPA Works Progress Administration for communities to develop civic areas. This was able to put many people in Hellertown to work who had lost their jobs. This was all done and completed by 1939, and it was a great success for Hellertown. Not only that, but Morris Dimmick was the very first participant in the WPA program. He applied first for funds. He received funds first in America, and the project was completed first in America. In 1992, this new entrance to Dimmick Park was built. The park has been dedicated in his name on behalf of his community service. Well deserved. Thanks to Morris Dimmick, we have this great opportunity to keep developing and keep children and adults busy with recreational purposes, including Little League and Adult League Baseball. And then as you look across the street, you see what I think is the best municipal pool in the Lehigh Valley, completed in 1939 as the final example of WPA funds.
My name is Mary Fernandez, and I'm here to talk about the Sears houses that were built in Hellertown. Well, back in the 1940s, east of Dimmick Park, there was a section that eventually it would be called Mountain View, and there were about 60 Sears homes being built at that time. I live in one of those homes, Sears homes were called that because they were actually built by Sears. And from the history of it, I understand that they were particularly built for Bethlehem Steel, that people that went to work for Bethlehem Steel were trying to form a community, and that's why a lot of these houses were built and bought by Bethlehem Steel workers also. But most of the ones that were built in Hellertown, they were Cape Cods with like a one-car garage. But a lot of these houses don't look the original way anymore because people have done a lot of things to them. And after living in one of those homes for several years, the daughter of the original owner had written me a letter and also included pictures. Now, the pictures were of our house actually being built and the one we live in now. And also, she told me the story how she grew up there. One particular thing was at Christmas time, there was a Christmas tree up at Juniper Road and Birch Road on the corner, which is now gone. And every year at Christmas time, everybody would get together and they would gather around this Christmas tree and sing Christmas carols, and then Santa Claus would come also and he would bring the kids candy. She went on to say about, when she had a great time growing up there. She said in the summer years, like when she was a teenager, they hung out at the pool all the time. She told me she even worked there for 3 years. We moved to Hellertown when our son was like 10 years old. Our son almost went through the same thing. He lived at the pool all summer long. It was like a repeat almost of what she did.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie Gonzalez. I publish the Valley Voice, Saucon Valley's weekly newspaper. We're 30 years old. I started the paper down here. I was a former reporter for the Bethlehem Globe-Times, and this is the area that I covered, Hellertown and Lower Saucon. And we've enjoyed a wonderful time here in town. Now, what I have here is the Hellertown Telegraph, the very first newspaper that was published here in Hellertown in 1858. It was done in both German and English. They have covered things, the marriage licenses, the obituaries. There's a little dog story here. Somebody was discharged from prison because of honesty, along with other facets of life down here in Hellertown.
In 1972, it was the 100th year centennial of Hellertown, and they had a lot of festivities, church services, and a huge parade. I was in the parade along with my mother and my grandmother and my aunts, and we were the Centennial Belles in the Honeybee Division. So they had a lot of antique cars. And everybody was kind of dressed up in the Victorian wear, the men with their beards and hats and all. And it was a very festive time. It went on for 3 days. So I was involved with that. So that was a lot of fun.
I'm Noreen Fernandez, and I'm here to talk about Hellertown. The parade at Halloween time was really a nice thing to go to. There was a lot of people it used to come right down Main Street in Hellertown. At 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, we used to go down and sit each year. Annual event. And we would sit in front of the Park Hotel, and my dad would park us there, and then he'd be in the inside looking out the window at us, making sure we're okay. But it used to really be a nice parade. It was a lot of the bands from schools, but it was enjoyable, very enjoyable. The Brookfield Dairy was on Water Street, right before you crossed the railroad tracks. And they used to supply milk to the schools in glass bottles, actually. We didn't have cartons at that time. And that was all through our elementary years that I can remember that. Every time you would leave town to go over like towards Sidersville or Allentown the back way, you would pass the Brookfield Dairy on the right and watch the men on the docks working. And it was something to see. It was just something to see. And when we were kids, we'd get birthday money or Christmas money, and we'd take that $2 or $3 and we'd go down to, it was called Grant's Department Store. Oh my God, that used to be our place to go for little 45s and just little knick-knack things and clothes. Sometimes we'd go.
There was Stearns Market. Everybody knew you. I was a little kid. I'd walk up. They'd have my order waiting. Where do you get small town service like that anymore? Everyone knew you. Even when I was a baby, they gave my mom gifts for me. Everybody knew everybody.
Hello, my name is Jason Stern, and I'm a resident of Hellertown, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the experiences of my grandparents, Leo and Wanda Stern, in Hellertown. They first started a small store in 1955 on Main Street, selling a few groceries and candy. And then quickly that store began to expand, and they purchased a building on the corner of Water and Main Street in Hellertown and started a butcher shop. This very quickly became a place where a lot of people would get their groceries, get their meat for the week. At the height of the store, my grandfather would literally crank out about 800 pounds of sausage, and people would line up before the store would even open to get their meat and to get their food from Stearns Market. And they stayed there for about 20 years until they decided to retire and move on.
The name is Joseph Delfo. I'm here to talk a little bit about the building of the clock tower in the middle of Hellertown at the Hellertown Plaza back in 1987. The original Detweiler was a homeopathic doctor here in Hellertown in Pennsylvania. He was the first one in Pennsylvania. He donated the plaza to the borough as well as the borough building. The clock itself, it's a year older than I am. The works were built in 1930. He knew the president of the bank in New York that the clock initially came from. When they tore the bank down, it was only in service 7 or 8 years. He said he'd like to have that to incorporate it in the borough building in Hellertown, Pennsylvania in 1940 when they redid it. Well, it turned out it was never put there. That's why it ended up in a garage. Back about 1957 or 1958, I used to do a lot of work for the borough of Hellertown, electrical work. Back in their back garages, and at one of the corners, I found this clock, the works. When I was all done, I put it all back right where it was. 35 years later, I decided it was time to dig it out and see if I couldn't get enough interest to put it in the middle of Hellertown. I thought it would look very nice as a clock tower. I got it out, and this gentleman, Mr. Macy, worked at the Bethlehem Steel. He also was a clockmaker. He got the thing working for me. Once I saw it worked, I went to the Borough Council to ask permission to build it at the plaza behind the wall. Well, of course, after a little bit of discussion, they agreed upon it. So then I continued on, and thankfully, because of the newspapers, they gave me such good publicity, the money started to roll in. I had a meeting where a lot of people showed up. They showed me their interest. I had stonemasons come forward. Bethlehem Steel block layers laid all of the block for the tower. The concrete companies come forward and donated all of the cement. To make a long story short, we built that tower for $4,800. So it shows you how the people of Hellertown, on a good project, they will come forward and they'll help. They'll help financially as well as they'll help physically. Like I said, the bricklayers, the stonemasons, the concrete people, whoever you needed, they were there to help me. The top of the tower, most of it was built up at Votech. Votech school left out at the end of the year, so they brought it home and put it in my garage. I finished it. They were building I-78. I went up there, talked real nice to the foreman on the job. They sent one of their cranes down, picked it up at my home, brought it down here and put it on top of the tower for me. These are some of the things that people, if you have a good project, you're honest, they'll come forward and they'll help you. The amount of people involved in this thing, tremendous amount of people. The women, it's unbelievable. We needed the payments board. I set it all up. I had everything dug out. The men did it. We put the stone down, put the forms up. What happens is figuring the men will be home from work at such a time. Well, unfortunately, the cement companies came early. So I made some quick phone calls, and I had a half a dozen women there pushing wheelbarrows and dumping the cement and raking it. Finally, the men came to finish it off. After it was built, I thought it would be nice if we would have chimes. So I left it be known. So I get a phone call from Addie Fry. If I remember correctly, she was the oldest woman in Hellertown. She wanted to buy the chimes for the clock tower. So my wife and I went down to Schulmerich Chime in Sellersville, picked out the chimes we wanted, which we thought would be affordable. It came out to $4,800. I set them up. We played them one day, and the Fry family was all there to be the first ones there for the chime. And the very first song we played was Amazing Grace. That was her husband's favorite song. I thought this would be so nice in this community to have it there. That tower there hopefully will be there when I'm long gone.
Welcome to the PBS 39 studio. I'm Joe Krasinski. Welcome to Our Town, Hellertown. We have now seen the first of a three-part program put together by the people who live and work in Hellertown. They have become the storytellers for the evening. Public television has been called America's storyteller, but we're bringing it right home to Hellertown tonight on your viewer-supported public television station. During this intermission, we have the great delight of introducing you to some of the people who made this program, and we also have the opportunity to talk to you about the important role that you can play in keeping the margin of excellence around this viewer-supported public television station. You do that by making a voluntary contribution to PBS 39 using the telephone number you see on your screen, 800-360-0039, or pledging online securely at WLVT.org. And tonight, during Our Town, Hellertown, we have some wonderful incentives for you to contribute. If you will make a $50 contribution to support PBS 39 program efforts for the year ahead, we'll reward your generosity with a DVD copy of Our Town, Hellertown. And not only will you see everything that is in the broadcast edition today, you will also be treated to some bonus material that we'll be telling you about through the course of the evening. If you will enroll as a monthly sustaining member of PBS 39 with an ongoing commitment of $5 monthly, you can have 2 DVD copies of Our Town, Hellertown. That gives you the opportunity to have one for your very own and share one with a local library or school or faith congregation or a relative or friend who lives outside of the area but who loves Hellertown and wants to reconnect. That DVD is a great way to do it. Speaking of that, if you know someone who is interested in Hellertown but can't see the PBS 39 broadcast signal over the air or on cable, they can watch parts 2 and 3 of Our Town, Hellertown at WLVT.org or via Facebook Live. Simply go to the PBS 39 page on Facebook, and our Town, Hellertown telecast is being seen live there. So let's get the party started, starting with your call at 800-360-0039. Laura?
Joe, I can't think of a better reason to celebrate than to celebrate our community and how lucky we are to live in a community that's so rich in stories to tell. When you think about that word community, it's not about places, it's about people and people coming together. And I took a few notes while I was watching that last segment, and what I heard Jill Delfo say was that whatever I needed, they were there to help me. That is the definition of community. They were there to help me. And together, they created a lasting legacy in that clock tower that stands today and will stand when many of us are gone. Thank you so much for joining us in this celebration of the community spirit that we are proud to bring together right here at PBS 39. As Joe mentioned, throughout the night, you'll get an opportunity to meet the people who made this program. They've joined us right here live in our studio, and they're going to tell you some of the special stories that went into making this. I saw them during this last program nodding their heads and smiling when we heard about Grant's Department Store and Stearns. And I have a feeling there's going to be many more moments just like that coming up. We're going to head over in just a moment to producer John Rice, who's in the studio with a very special guest. John?
Thank you, Laura. Before we get to talking to a guest, I want to make sure everyone understands what you are watching tonight, because it is unique in the realm of television, where producers and stations control what the content of a show is. This show was designed by the people of Hellertown, who, when we asked, said, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the Sears houses. I want to talk about the clock tower. And you'll hear more of that before. We didn't tell them what to say, and what they told us is how this show is made. Now, I'm technically a producer of the show, as is Brandon Long, who's hiding in the shadows because he's too shy. We're not producers. We're facilitators. We bring together the opportunity to tell the stories. We ask for the materials, the artifacts, the old photos, the films, to put it together. But it is wholly a show that belongs to the people of Hellertown. And you wonder how those things start? Here's where we started. Stacy Torkos, thanks for being here tonight, Stacy.
Absolutely.
Stacy is, what's your title at the Historical Society?
Well, I'm the president of the Hellertown Historical Society. However, it doesn't mean that I'm really in charge, so let's just get that clear.
Okay, but how do you start a project like this? We look up, we say, oh, there's a Historical Society, and I think I sent you an email, and I think you responded maybe a little cautiously. Is that true?
A little bit. I think this was something a project that I've never been involved before, and I think our community has seen.
So it started with a conversation with Stacy, and then Josh Popachak with the Saucon Source, who is not here tonight, but is vital in putting this together. And then it was a group of 5, and then it was a group of 20, and then it was a group of 30. And tonight we have 31 people here, and that is how this grew, through the word of mouth, but it started with you. How do you think the people of Hellertown will like what they've seen so far and what you hope they'll see?
I don't hope. I know. I think we live in a really great community, and I know there's been a lot of excitement on social media about this project, and I hope there's a lot of people tuning in tonight, and we'll keep tuned.
Okay. Now, do you have friends who are watching?
I do.
In Hellertown?
Of course in Hellertown.
Outside of Hellertown?
I hope outside of Hellertown.
And they should be watching on?
They're on PBS 39 or on Facebook.
Or WLVT.org. And if they like the show, I want you to look over there. Do you see a phone number over there?
I do.
Could you suggest maybe people call that?
Sure. It's 1-800-360-0039.
That's how you get your copy of the DVD for yourself, for a friend, for your own library. And that's how you support the station that brings you Our Town, hopefully the first of many to come. Let's go back to Joe.
Well, the mission of public television and public media has been for about 50 years now to be something different, to be set apart from the rest of broadcasters. First of all, we're non-commercial in nature, and our underpinnings are in education. We use the instrument of television to tell stories, to inspire, to educate, to entertain. We serve as a public convener. And in recent years, mostly since Ken Burns came along, we've taken on this label of America's Storyteller. And PBS 39 tries to come through in all of those ways at a local level, serving the greater Lehigh Valley and western New Jersey. And it takes a lot of good ideas, time, talent, ingenuity, and something else to keep up this margin of excellence, and that's money. And it's a rather unlikely business model that has worked for 50 years, and that is we give away the television product for free, with the idea that in time, viewers will voluntarily support it through membership pledges. And when you hear the telephones ringing, as they are behind me right now, you can see that once again, we're renewing that commitment to each other, the station to community, the community to station. And therein is the magic, and that's where future programs will come from your generosity. If you are not a member, please become a member now by calling 800-360-0039. At the $50 level, we have the DVD edition of Our Town, Hellertown, but we've been encouraging you to consider monthly giving, an ongoing sustaining commitment, okay? This is growing in popularity, and it really serves the mission of PBS 39 very well when you consider becoming a sustainer. Here's more information about sustaining membership.
There is a quick and easy way that you can support this station every month. It works within your budget, and it takes just a few minutes to set up. First, select a giving level that's best for you. $5 a month? 10? 25? You decide. Your automatic contribution can be made from your bank account. Just locate your account number and routing number. Or use your credit card. Then go to our website or give us a call, and your sustaining support can be set up in just a few minutes, safely and securely. Now you don't have to worry about renewing your membership, and you know that your gift will continue to support all that this station provides to you and your family. Thank you.
You know, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and I want to encourage you to call that number on your screen, 1-800-360-0039, to reserve your copy of this incredibly special program that you're watching right now. We're excited to bring you this really cool and exciting and different night of programming. It's something new for us here at PBS 39 and something we're proud to take on. We recently redeveloped our mission statement here at the station, and we really want to be a catalyst for community engagement. And projects like this are certainly an example of our ability to bring the community together and then give the community an opportunity to take action. We want to thank everyone who spent their time, their talent, and their treasure building this library of stories and documenting Hellertown's local history. We're so proud of the work we do, being able to tell the stories of local history. We want to also thank all the sponsors who you saw at the beginning of the program who have donated to make this program possible, as well as our folks who donated the food that we were able to feed our group of volunteers tonight.
Hello, I'm Bob Monick, owner of the Springtown Inn, and we're proud to be partners with PBS 39. Located in Springtown, Bucks County, just outside of Hellertown, the Springtown Inn Historical Restaurant and Tavern offers made-to-order entrees and desserts, as well as events and catering provided by Brooklyn Catering. We are open Thursday through Monday for dinner with entrees created by Executive Chef Harry Krager III. More information is available at springtowninn.com.
Oh, we have so much more of Our Town, Hellertown coming up, and I think you'll be surprised and delighted. I think one of the delights in working on this project was meeting, well, I think just an incredible man named Joe Delfo, and he's here with me right now. Joe, welcome. What do you people think of Joe and the Clock Tower story?
Well, the only reason that clock tower is there is thanks to all the people that helped.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but I'm going to tell you from watching the interview with you, and there was more of the interview than we showed here tonight, and hearing what other people have to say, I'm going to guess that you have a very, very deep passion and love for this little town of Hellertown. Is that true?
Oh, yes, I love Hellertown. We moved here in 1955, my wife and I, the day my son was born. That's the only reason I remember it. But I care for the community. I can't say too much about it.
But we are so happy that we found you, or you found us, and that the stories you have told have just been phenomenal. And we have another little Joe Delfo story coming up a little bit later. I won't tell you more about that. You don't tell the story, Chad Hammond does. So you may know what it's about, but don't let anybody know. But I want to ask you, do you have friends at home, in the area or out of the area, who you think would appreciate this DVD?
Well, definitely. I have people in Tennessee, out in California, relation.
So for anybody watching us right now on television, on Facebook, on the internet, is there a phone number we might suggest they call?
There it is. It's 1-800-360-0039. 0039.
Wonderful.
Channel 39.
Perfect. Now, you cannot argue with a man of the stature of Joe Delfo. Can you? Can you argue with Joe Delfo? Okay. Give us a call right now. We have plenty more of Our Town coming up, but right now we're going back to Joe.
Thanks a lot, John. A couple of telephone volunteers are free to take your call right now at 800-360-0039. I love the clock tower story, and I get the point, and I want to reiterate the point that if you have a good idea and people trust you, they will get together, they will rally around, and they will make it work. Well, so it went with Our Town, Hellertown, frankly. When we approached the community, PBS 39 and PBS overall in the nation is a very trusted brand, and the people that you see in this room rallied around it, and the fruits of that labor are coming through on your television. And part 2 of Our Town, Hellertown is coming along in just a couple of minutes. Right now is my opportunity to remind you of the DVD edition of Our Town, Hellertown. It's our reward for your generous $50 contribution to PBS 39. Enroll as a monthly sustainer with an ongoing commitment of $5 using your credit card or checking account information. You can have 2 DVDs of Our Town, Hellertown. Want to know how to acquire additional copies of Our Town, Hellertown? Simply call the operator. They know everything that needs to be told about how to get additional copies. Some people are already calling and saying, when is this going to be seen again? So here we go. Friday at noon, you can expect to see a rebroadcast of Our Town, Hellertown. Saturday at 4 p.m., that's June 17, and Sunday, June 18 at noon. If you know somebody outside of the broadcast area who would love to see this, this is the opportunity at WLVT.org or via Facebook Live. Those are the options. I hope you'll go to action right now. 800-360-0039. Laura, how are we doing?
Thanks so much, Joe. Really appreciate it. Love seeing so many of our volunteers busy on the phone, and that's because of viewers just like you, one at a time doing their part. I want to remind you of that phone number in case you haven't reserved your copy yet. It's 1-800-360-0039. You know, I've heard this storytelling technique so far tonight described as a patchwork quilt. I've heard it described as a video scrapbook, but I have to tell you, in watching it, I'm sensing a little bit of a love story. It's a love letter from the people who live and grew up in the town of Hellertown to the community that they're a part of. And that's a beautiful thing. And who else besides PBS 39 would take the time to help the residents of a town write a love letter home? Well, if you're just joining us, welcome home to PBS 39. We have a lot coming up that's in store just for you. So far, we've shared the story of Stearns, we've shared the story of the clock tower, and we've shared the story of the grist mill, and much, much more. But don't go anywhere. There's an awful lot coming up in the second act. We're going to hear about the story of the 5 fires. We're going to learn about the trains that run through Hellertown. We'll hear about the schools where young people continue to grow and learn and foster their passion for love and life. We're going to hear about the story of the football lights. I have to tell you, this story in particular was completely new to me. It's a charming one that you won't want to miss. We're also going to learn about the commitment to World War II that the town of Hellertown made and the lives that were sacrificed in support of that war effort during the Battle of the Bulge. It's a story you won't want to miss, and then we're going to wrap up Act 2 with a special story about the Saucon Rail Trail. I've ridden my bike on that trail many times. I've gone running and walking on that trail many, many times. And I have to tell you, the next time I go, I'm going to respect it a little bit more because I know so much more about the history and the people who made it what it is today. We want to remind you how you can reserve your copy of this program or just say thank you to PBS 39 for telling your story by calling 1-800-360-0039 or visiting us at WLVT.org. Enjoy Act 2 of Our Town, Hellertown.
Heinzelman Funeral Home, Inc., with locations in Hellertown and Schnecksville, is dedicated to providing the most respectful service to you and your family. With facilities that include multiple viewing areas, on-site crematory, and off-street parking. We are committed to developing pre-arrangement plans that fulfill your wishes. We strive to offer positive choices for your personal and financial position. For more information, 610-838-0521 or at heinzelmancares.com.
Hi, my name's Don Mills. I'm going to be discussing a night of 5 simultaneous fires. I started with the Volunteer Fire Company in 1976. When I met the few people down there that I became friends with, They showed me how to learn how to fight fires, but then we would go to classes. The Northampton Community College offered classes for firefighting, and the county paid for it as a volunteer, which was very nice. A former Hellertown police officer who apparently was dismissed from duty decided to get revenge on the town and set 5 fires simultaneously that night. It was actually early in the morning. The alarm went in at 3:18 in the morning. I was driving the first truck, and I had the chief with me, and we arrived at the first fire, and before we could even get out to start fighting the fire, we heard a call for the second fire. It was getting scary because we were limited as to our manpower as it was already fighting this first one, and we had to send the second truck to that other fire instead of coming to help us. But eventually we were able to control the fire we were at, and we left it in the hands of a couple of junior members who had a hose just to make sure nothing spread any further. We left that scene to go down to the second fire to help that crew. And on our way, a third fire call came in. That's when the chief decided we're calling mutual aid. And all in all, there were 5 fires. The first one was at a Texaco gas station down at the end of Depot Street at Front. The second fire was down at Rauscher's Hardware in the Spring Hill Shopping Center. The third fire was a trailer full of cardboard behind Dan's IGA. The fourth fire was a Democratic Club. I think it's the end of Thomas Avenue. The other fire was at the junior high school on Main Street. Apparently a Molotov cocktail type device was thrown through a window and it went out on its own. So thankfully those 2 fires didn't develop anything serious. But the Rauscher's Hardware and Spring Hill Shopping Center fire was the worst by far. It was at least $500,000 in damage, probably more. We had been battling fires for many hours that morning, and a lot of us were exhausted. Some of the businesses donated food, drinks, and so on, dropped them off at the fire company without even being told to do so. The ladies group, some of our own wives and girlfriends volunteered and prepared meals for firefighters. When they were tired and needed to take a rest, they took a truck back to the fire company, rested there, had food, drink, and then came back to duty. It was really a thankful task that no one asked them to do, but they did it on their own.
Being that I lived on Front Street in the 70s, 1976 was a big year for our country. It was the bicentennial, and there was all kinds of celebrations. And one of the things that was created was the Bicentennial Freedom Train. And the Freedom Train pretty much had a collection of Americana. Now, I didn't get to go inside the train, but because I lived with the train as my backyard, we got to see the Freedom Train go right by our house. It was quite a thrill. I'd like to talk a little bit also about my grandfather, my pappy, Floyd Eisenhart. He was a train man on the Reading Railroad on the passenger trains. And every night when he'd come home from Philly, the train would slow down behind our house, and out came the Philadelphia Inquirer, the paper, so we'd have them on his way down to Bethlehem, and then before he started his route back. So it was like we'd get to see him, and there he was on the train, and he really enjoyed working with the Reading Railroad. That was a great experience.
My dad worked on the railroad in the 40s. He traveled back and forth down the line on the Reading, it was called at that time, the Reading Railroad he worked on. I also have a lantern of his that we kept all these years, and also a pay stub that he worked on the Reading Railroad.
The passenger service, it started dying off by the time I was a kid in the 60s. I believe it finally ceased service in 1984. But people did use it still. I mean, he knew everybody who got on the train. I remember when I would travel down to Philly, especially when he retired, he knew everyone by name. And I think the same people used it. It was a great mode of transportation. But in years past, before my time, the railroad was like Western Union came through there. People would know to meet there. We had our own train station. Depot Street in town, if people are new to town, is named because that was where the railroad depot was. It no longer exists, so we lost that piece of history, but the railroad was the way people communicated, where goods came in through town. It was a very important part of the early part of town.
Hi, I'm Karen Samuels, and I'll be talking about the history of Hellertown School District. William Penn in 1600, 1682. He sent all kinds of letters to the people of Germany. Come settle this land with the enticement of freedom of religion, the rights that they didn't have in Germany. When there were enough settlers in one area, they would start calling it a village, and they would build a school, and at the same time build a church, and often they were in the same old building. As the state began to get civilized, they started to see that there were some problems with these little church schools. They wanted to see some improvements. There were many generations of children and parents who could not read or write. George Wolfe, who was the governor of Pennsylvania, decreed that we really must provide education to all students. And by 1900, all schools were teaching English. Hellertown School District contracted with, it was an old lumber yard, and it was the office of an old lumber yard, and it looked like an old lumber yard, and that was the high school.
We're standing in front of the first high school in the Hellertown area. The first graduating class was in 1896, and the first graduating class was 3 people. I have in front of me here a piece of the wall from the first high school where students would sign their names after they would graduate.
So the principal, Alvin Reinhardt, at the time, around 1908, he decided this is ridiculous, this is not working, and he went to the school board many times to say, you need to build a new school. A schoolhouse was built on Northampton Street, and they named it after that principal, Reinhardt. It was called Reinhardt School. Well, by the 1920s, they decided they had to take part of Lower Saucon Township. They decided to merge just school district-wise with Lower Saucon Township. And eventually it became Saucon Valley. In the 60s, it became Saucon Valley School District. By merging the two entities together, they built a beautiful elementary school on Wassergasse Lane that all the kids went to. They were able to close out all the one-room schoolhouses then, because they were everywhere. They were in Lower Saucon. There were 15, 16, all within Lower Saucon Township. 1971, they built a brand new high school on Polk Valley Road. And they buy a huge campus. It used to be a potato farm. And they think they'll have enough room to make a campus there and eventually build an elementary school, which they did in the 90s, and a middle school. And that's what students use today.
The story was where the lights were. Joe Delfo and volunteers got those light towers from the steel. They got them moved to the high school somehow. After football practice, we would go there and paint these towers. There were 7 of them, and we would paint these and get them prepped for them to lift up with a crane, and then that's how we got the lights at the stadium. When those first went in there, the school district was very adamant on when the lights could be on and when they could be off. Like when we did warm-ups, like only one strand would be on because it was going to cost so much money to run these lights. When Joe had it figured out, it was pennies, to run those lights at night. And the more people came to the game, that was revenue for the school district. But that was, I think, a neat thing that Joe did as well, because it showed everyone worked together to make that project happen. The welder in town helped weld those things. Like I said, we painted those things, and it showed us value too, that we appreciated it. It wasn't just, here's the money, put them up. Everyone appreciates them.
My name is Gene Fernandez. I'm here to talk about the old Champlain Sparkplug building. Growing up in the Hellertown area, I was always aware of Hellertown manufacturing. Being young and naive, I thought it was a garment industry where they made women's dresses or blouses. Then I learned that it was Champlain Sparkplug. Originally, it was called Edison Splitdorf, which Thomas Edison was one of the founders of this. He took a liking to Adolf Klinger and had him do research to find property to build a plant on it, and which they did. They started construction in 1918, and it was opened in 1922. Then they merged with a Splitdorf company, which was a company at that time that made radios, and they were sponsored by the Bethlehem Steel. and it stayed Edison Splitdorf until 1951, when it was purchased by the Stranahan family from Toledo, Ohio. And I started working there in December of 1965, and not knowing it at the time, I was working with my future father-in-law. And Champion was a great place to work. I met a lot of neat and interesting people from Hellertown, and it was just a good place. Part of the things that they would offer to the employees were various jewelry, tie clasps, necklaces for the women with spark plugs on, earrings, and they also offered a winter coat, a ski jacket that everybody and his brother had one with a Champion emblem on it. It was interesting that it had that much of an impact on the local population. We always had a summer shutdown the first 3 weeks of July, and the first day we were on shutdown, everybody received a certified letter in the mail saying that they were closing the doors, and that was it. And August 27th was the last, of 1982, was the last that they opened up. And when it shut down, it had a big impact on the economy of Hellertown because they lost a lot of revenue to it.
Hi, my name is Bill Fry. I'm here to talk about Hellertown's participation in World War II. During World War II, Hellertown, of course, was well represented in the military by many brave men and women. But I'm here to talk about just a small group of men, 28 of which served in the same unit, the 17th Airborne, during World War II. These boys went off to war. Most of them were 18 to 20-year-olds, just fresh out of high school. Christmas Eve of 1944, under the command of General Patton, they headed north in France to try and save the 101st Airborne Unit, which was surrounded by the Germans. This battle became known as the Battle of the Bulge. They were fighting in one of the most severe winters of the time. All these men, 28 boys, were in this group from Hellertown. The men had summertime clothing on, and they were fighting basically Panzer tanks with M1 rifles. Well, the casualty rate was very high. They were suffering up to 1,000 casualties a day. This 17th Airborne suffered more casualties than all the other airborne combined. The Borough Hall had received a letter from the United States War Department, and it stated that never again would they allow this to happen, that such a group of men, 28, would all go into the same unit fighting in a war. My father was one of the men in this group. They all attended the memorial services down here at town every year. Of these 28 men, there's only one left today, and I'd just like to thank all the military men and women who served not only in World War II from Hellertown and all the United States, but all of them serving today.
Hi, my name is Patty Mills, and I'll be discussing living in Hellertown. First of all, I was a transplant. My husband and I got married in 1985, and we had lived on an apartment on Main Street in Hellertown. And 4 days before our daughter was born, in 1986, we settled on a home. I had 2 boys from my previous marriage, and so we moved into the house on Birch Road, 750 square foot, Cape Cod. We had the 3 children then. And 14 months later, I had my son, and so we were raising 4 children on Birch Road in Hellertown. I liked the Saucon Valley School District. My son was in kindergarten and 5th grade. They all walked to the local schools. The library was right in the next block from our house. The park is fantastic. And right now, even with my grandson that we take down there, the Dimmick Park is fantastic. And all 4 of my children were lifeguards at the Borough Pool, which was 2 blocks from our house. So once they turned 16, they didn't have a car, but it was very convenient. I just think it's the openness, the friendliness. Hellertown, I love walking. I don't know, it's just a wholesome, friendly town. You just make a lot of lifelong friends that stay family friends. It just brings happiness to you.
My name is Dawn Parker, and I started an Irish dance class at Moravian College, which eventually grew into my own school along with my sister, Jackie Parker, and we have the Irish Stars Parker School of Irish Dance. And it always promoted family and togetherness, and that was such a wonderful thing. It only opened up an area of growth for people who want to be part of a family community. And it was a wonderful thing for children. It gave children something to do after school that was positive. And our classes actually at the time got so big that we had students from the outside community wanting to come in and take classes with us at our studio. So my sister and I felt so passionate that we wanted to bring it back to Hellertown. We wanted to bring the Irish Stars Parker School of Irish Dance to Hellertown, and we were gonna do whatever we could. We felt that it was a super central location. We were from the town, we knew the people, and nowadays we have our own studio on Durham Street, and it grows every day, and we love Irish dance, and it's just our passion of ours, and we love to bring it to Hellertown. Durham Street is our own little Celtic district between us and Braveheart across the street.
Hi, I'm Ken Rampola. Hi, I'm Kenny Rampola. Hi, I'm Robert Grimm, and I'll be discussing Lost Tavern Brewing. Lost Tavern Brewing came about through myself and one of my partners, Anthony Ganji, as we began to think about the name and the location and the concept. The location was easy. We wanted to be in Hellertown, but the name and the concept were a harder thing to come by. One of the first businesses commissioned in Hellertown in the mid-1700s was a tavern, but there was no record of its location, hence the Lost Tavern. It also kind of fit the concept that we wanted to go with, and kind of harking back to the days of beer being brewed local and served local and enjoyed local.
The building was originally built in 1927. A lot of automotive influence in the beginning. Explains the big steel beams that you'll see when you walk into our tap room. From there, it's been anything from a men's clothing store to a hardware store to a handset bowling alley. There was a pet store. I remember when I was a child, there was a mountain lion actually in the front of the pet store there.
I've owned the building for about 14 years. So when I bought the building, it was in pretty bad shape. I completely gutted it and wanted to keep the outside, historically correct. And then we had developed the upper floor of the building, and we had basically kept the bottom floor empty, waiting for the right opportunity. When two of my partners approached me with the idea of putting a brewery on our first floor.
At first, there was a lot of skepticism about a brewery coming into Hellertown. A lot of that was due to people not knowing what it was going to be, how it was going to operate. But the more we pushed our story, told people that we wanted to keep everything local, that we were local people ourselves, coming together with neighbors here in Hellertown, they seemed to latch on, and the support just grew and grew. One of the things that I take great pride in with being able to open the business here in Hellertown is that we are hopefully helping to change Hellertown and bring in some new exciting businesses, because a lot of times in these towns that are kind of on the precipice of change, a brewery is one of the first businesses to come in and help do that.
Community kind of sums it all up. When I'm sitting in the tap room and I see our neighbors that we all know each other by name now come in, and being able to sit down and have a beer and talk about what's going on in town is pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Steve LeBrake, and I'm here to talk about Hellertown. 5 or 6 years ago, the borough came to me asking me to be a part of this commission and getting the rail trail underway. Well, the trail was obviously a rail line owned by North Penn. It took a year or so for the rail trail to open. It actually happened very fast. When in the history of rail trails becoming rail trails, it happened very quickly in a matter of a year. It's 7 miles one way at this point. It'll be connecting into the Bethlehem Greenway this year. It's going further south as the Upper Bucks Trail into Quakertown. So we'll have a 15-mile one-way trail. Just seeing it develop in Hellertown, Lower Saucon, Upper Saucon, and how much it's changed Hellertown, it's been really pretty dramatic. They moved the farmers market in Hellertown, used to be this 10 booths, and now it's 40 plus. And they moved it right next to the rail trail. So a typical Sunday morning, you see all kinds of people riding their bikes to the farmers market. And it really changed the lifestyle of a lot of people in the area, which was really cool to watch and see come to fruition. Owning the bike shop in town, obviously we had a big boost in sales. One of the coolest things I thought that transpired over that was the number of baskets we're selling. And baskets it's just people want to ride their bike to the grocery store, to the farmer's market, and really change their lifestyle. So it was a really neat thing to come about that we're really proud of.
My name is Dennis Scholl. I live in Hellertown. I grew up in Hellertown, and I've lived here my whole life. What I'd like to talk to you today about is Saucon Creek. And this is a creek that is very dear to me. I grew up along its banks. I was introduced to this creek by my father when I was 5 years old. This creek forms the entire western boundary of the borough of Hellertown. Flows down into Bethlehem and empties into the Lehigh River. It originates as springs that empty into wetlands that eventually form the creek in Lehigh County around Coopersburg, Southern Lehigh School District. It's really nice to have such a high quality cold water creek in your community, but it's even nicer that the public understands the value of this creek. My son Thomas, when he was a senior in high school at Saucon Valley, created an environmental trail down here. He passed away in 2012, so this is a legacy of his, which interprets Saucon Creek and the various forms of life that live in it and along its banks. It interprets the plant life that's so very important to keeping this creek shaded and cool. He did a 5-panel trail, and it starts with an introduction and goes down further to the insects that live in the streams, the plant life, and finally ends up with what you can do to preserve a creek like this. And I'm happy it's still here today, and our family maintains it so that the public can understand what a valuable resource they have here.
Beautiful storytelling given with authenticity and affection here on your viewer-supported public television station. Hello again, Joe Krasinski, proud to be speaking to you from the PBS 39 studio during Our Town, Hellertown. That was part 2, and we're anticipating the 3rd and final act of Our Town, Hellertown coming your way after we take an opportunity to speak to you from the studio about the important role that you play in keeping the margin of excellence on your hometown viewer-supported public television station. That's PBS 39. And everything you see here is thanks to the voluntary contributions of public television viewers like you. If you are not a member, please become a member now by calling 800-360-0039. Now, when can I see this program again? I'd love to have a copy of this program. Mission accomplished. Make the $50 contribution. You get your own DVD edition of Our Town, Hellertown. And listen, you've seen the first 2 acts. We're anticipating the 3rd act, but there will be more on this DVD than we can fit in the telecast tonight. So look forward to additional stories that we could not fit in tonight's broadcast. There is more of the historic footage from Danny Ruth and Marianne Orwin. And there is a longer look at the aerial drone footage that was collected by Steve Kaufman. So there's really so much to look forward to on this DVD edition. More incentive for you to go to the phone and make that pledge now at 800-360-0039. Remember, 2 DVDs come your way when you enroll as a sustaining member with an ongoing monthly commitment to PBS 39 of $5 monthly using your credit card or checking account information. Decide the pledge amount that suits you best, but make the call right now. Laura?
Thank you so much, Joe. It's really an honor to be celebrating our community with you tonight and with the people in this room. We're so lucky that we've been invited into the town of Hellertown by the many residents and key community leaders who have stories to share. And we're really, really grateful to those of you who are calling in. I'm truly overwhelmed by the support. Call 1-800-360-0039 or visit WLVT.org. But I encourage you to pick up the phone and take a call because the stars of the show, some of them are sitting right up there. You'll notice Dennis Scholl from the last segment. He's sitting right over here, just a few feet away from me. And there's a chance that when you call in, you can actually talk to the people who helped make this show. I do want to share with you very quickly some of the comments we've received on Facebook. As I said, the support for this program has been overwhelming. And And you might not be surprised to find out that we've gotten a ton of support on social media as well. People are watching tonight the live stream in Arkansas, Florida, California, and Texas, as well as locally all across the Lehigh Valley and eastern Pennsylvania region, throughout Saylorsburg and Doylestown, and of course, in your hometown, Hellertown. Let me tell you what they're saying. They're telling us that this show is terrific. I'm so glad that they did it. They're telling us that these pics are bringing back some great memories. Well, I hope that it's been a trip down memory lane for you and a real trip to the past, present, and future of Hellertown. We're going to head over in just a moment to John Rice. He's the producer of this program, but as I said, the real stars of this show are the ones that you're seeing on air and that were behind the cameras in many ways. And one of my favorite stars of the show is with John, Gene Fernandez, my great friend. John?
Well, thank you, Laura. Well, we can't delay that introduction, can you? Here is one of the, we try to find people in towns we do these shows we call champions. I think it's ironic that the story this gentleman told is also the champion. But I want to talk to you about your involvement in making this all happen. How'd you find out, and what all did you do?
Well, I found out through you, actually, because I work part-time for PBS 39, and I was interested right away. And I provided some, pictures and some documentary and some insights and stories.
But you also help spread the word, right?
Oh, yes. Countless people. I've been I don't know, like a megaphone around town, just telling people. And I did run into some negative comments. But my response to those people, Hellertown's a great place to live. Well, can it be better? Well, sure. Those people get involved. Try to make a change. Try to make changes happen. Make it better.
But, and as I think you heard also said, there are a lot of good places to eat, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a ton of good places. It depends what kind of food you love, I can't mention my favorite place called Braveheart, but,
Okay. We'll charge you for that. Do you have friends watching tonight who maybe really need this DVD for them or for a friend?
Yes. I have a lot of friends that inquired about the DVD, and my response to them is let's call 1-800-360-0039. And many copies as you need.
You did that as a pro. Gene Fernandez, we thank you very much. We have more people to talk to right now. Right now, we want to talk to you. These folks have stepped up and done a wonderful job to make this show happen. Now it's your chance to own this show, and when you do call, you're helping to make the next one happen as well. Give us a call right now. Let's go back to Joe.
There is a mission in all of public media all across the U.S. and certainly here in the greater Lehigh Valley and western New Jersey through PBS 39, and that is to educate, to inspire, to entertain, to convene, to stimulate conversation, to provoke thought. And it's happening here, and it has happened here for 50 years, thanks to the voluntary contributions of public television viewers like you. Tonight is one of those examples when each and every one of us in the studio is proud to be associated with public media and PBS 39, because I think we are at our best when we use the instrument of television to give voice and amplify the stories of people who live right here in our own community. This could be special to you if you once were from Hellertown or you live in Hellertown now. It can be meaningful to you if you have never even driven through Hellertown, because one of the things that comes through when you watch this program is the universal themes, those things that connect all of us as humans and as neighborhoods and as communities. That's coming through, and that's the power of public media. You make it even more powerful with your pledge at 800-360-0039. You've seen the DVDs, one at the $50 contribution level, two for the monthly sustaining membership. Right now, let's take an opportunity to thank a very special business who has helped keep us well fed during this special televised occasion.
Hello, I'm Bob Monick, owner of the Springtown Inn, and we're proud to be partners with PBS 39. Located in Springtown, Bucks County, just outside of Hellertown, the Springtown Inn Historical Restaurant and Tavern offers made-to-order entrees and desserts, as well as events and catering provided by Brooklyn Catering. We are open Thursday through Monday for dinner with entrees created by Executive Chef Harry Krager III. More information is available at springtowninn.com.
And on your visit to the Springtown Inn, may I recommend the strawberry shortcake for dessert. It is one of my favorites, and that's just the kind of tidbits you're going to get throughout the night. Little treasures, little gems that we've left throughout this entire program. And who better to tell them than the residents of Hellertown themselves? This program is sourced by the community. The community came together, got involved with PBS 39, and helped us tell their story. In fact, we really were just facilitators for them to tell their own stories. Here at PBS 39, we hope and dream that we can be a platform for community engagement, that we can tap into the heart of a community and that sense of community spirit and build on that. How can you be a part of it still? Well, by calling that number on your screen at 1-800-360-0039 and become a special part of this program by supporting it. You can also reserve your copy of the program by visiting WLVT.org. We're grateful for those of you who have called in, for those of you who are watching all across the country. And I do want to share with you a special Facebook comment that somebody left earlier. Somebody wrote, "I didn't know that." And I'll tell you why that's my favorite, because one of the best things we can do right here at PBS 39 is tell you things about your community that you didn't know. People spend their entire lives in their community. How many of you have driven past that Champion factory, that Champion manufacturing building, and you didn't know what used to happen in there? I've probably driven past it 100, if not 1,000 times, and never knew that story before tonight. That's the gift that we were able to give you in our town, Hellertown, and it's a gift that we'll keep on giving with your support. We're going to head over now to a special way that you can support PBS 39 by becoming a sustaining member. Take a look.
There is a quick and easy way that you can support this station every month. It works within your budget, and it takes just a few minutes to set up. First, select a giving level that's best for you. $5 a month? 10? 25? You decide. Your automatic contribution can be made from your bank account. Just locate your account number and routing number. Or use your credit card. Then go to our website or give us a call, and your sustaining support can be set up in just a few minutes, safely and securely. Now you don't have to worry about renewing your membership. And you know that your gift will continue to support all that this station provides to you and your family. Thank you.
Before we go much further, there are some people we need to acknowledge who helped this all happen, and places. First off, the Borough of Hellertown, who supported us, actually gave us some meeting space. We wanted to gather people together. We've mentioned the Hellertown Historical Society, where we met a couple times, the Lower Saucon Historical Society, which helped provide some of the materials you've seen. Two individuals, a gentleman named Danny Ruth, who is moving out of town and showed up one day and said, "I have this old film from the 1930s that came from the historical societies of both places." He's provided that to us. And a woman named Marianne Orwan, who I got an email saying, "I've got some old film from my grandfather from the 1950s. Would you like to see it?" Well, we did. And a lot of that is in this show. And what's amazing is that Marianne is currently living in England and got that material to us. I mention that because the Danny Ruth material and the Marianne Orwan material is going to be part of the bonus material you'll find on this DVD. Another bonus will be some interviews we didn't have in this show that were shot by a gentleman named Bill Fry, who took a camera and just went running with stuff. You've already seen some of what he's done. Lee Widener in Dimmick Park, Dennis Scholl at the Saucon Creek. And Bill is with me here right now. And Bill, you just took off.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. It was fun, though. It was very enjoyable, and I'd like to thank Channel 39 and all the fellow Hellertonians that have put on this show. It was an enjoyable experience. And I did probably about 20 interviews in maybe 10 days. And with all the other activities with baseball practice and at the high school that I do, and volunteering down at Historical Society where I first heard about the event, it was a fun project to be part of.
Well, as Laura mentioned earlier, we refer to this as a patchwork quilt. And I think you see that it comes from a variety of sources, from still video, from old videos, from original video, and from our friend Steve Kaufman, who took to the skies and all that. Do you have friends here in Hellertown or even far away who you think should be calling us to get their copy of the DVD?
Oh, certainly. I have a lot of friends that I really spread the word about the project, and I spoke to a lot of people in town and outside of town about this project and when it was going to be. The number for calling would be 800-360-0039.
Bill, thank you so much. You can also go online, WLVT.org. But what we need to do is we need to hear from you. We need you to let us know that you appreciate this kind of show, that Bill's work has not gone unrewarded. Really, when you see the bonus material, you see just how much he did for this show. Now, how much can you do for Hellertown, for PBS 39 with that phone call? Let's go to Joe.
A few minutes back, we had the happy problem of every telephone busy with a pledge of support. Now there are plenty of volunteers ready to take your call at 800-360-0039. So you've seen enough of the program to know that this is a great thing to have. It's a keepsake. It is truly a keeper. And you can keep your own DVD edition when you make a $50 contribution to PBS 39. Or enroll as a monthly sustainer with an ongoing monthly commitment of $5, and you can have 2 DVDs, one for you and one to share. It's 800-360-0039 or online at WLVT.org. And listen, some people are saying, when can we expect to see this program telecast again? Well, of course, immediately after this very original broadcast, we'll rerun the program tonight. So that's from 10 to midnight here this night. But Friday at noon, Friday, June 16 at noon, Saturday, June 17 at 4 p.m., and Sunday, June 18 at noon. So a number of opportunities. You can see those times again at WLVT.org. And if you want to help someone see the final segment of this program as it airs live, they can do that too at WLVT.org or at PBS 39 Facebook Live. Take advantage of that opportunity, but take advantage of this couple of minutes remaining with you in the studio to make that pledge. Laura?
Thanks so much, Joe. As we head back into the final act of this program, you still have an opportunity to call at 1-800-360-0039. And here's a little peek at what you'll see coming up. We're going to head underground for a special tour of Lost River Caverns. We're going to learn a little bit more about what it was like growing up in Hellertown. There's going to be a celebrity sighting along the way, and we're going to take a look at the future with St. Teresa School and the young people who are becoming the future leaders of Hellertown. Thank you for all that you've done to make this program possible. If you enjoy what you've seen, call that number on the screen or make a secure donation online. Enjoy Act 3 of Our Town, Hellertown.
Heinzelman Funeral Home, Inc., with locations in Hellertown and Schnecksville, is dedicated to providing the most respectful service to you and your family, with facilities that include multiple viewing areas, on-site crematory, and off-street parking. We are committed to developing pre-arrangement plans that fulfill your wishes. We strive to offer positive choices for your personal and financial position. For more information, 610-838-0521 or at heinzelmancares.com.
Hi, I'm Robert Gilman. I'm from Lost River Caverns in Hellertown. My grandfather started the caverns business back in 1930. He had acquired the property and then developed the cave, and essentially we've been there ever since. The early years of the caverns development was a little bit rocky because 1930 was the beginning of the Depression. So he did have to struggle quite a bit to keep that business alive. And I reflect back on that and think a tremendous amount of stubbornness that he was able to keep the business there. But he had this vision, this dream. And during the Depression, he worked for the WPA. He also started raising chickens, selling eggs. There was just a lot of little things, something that he did to try to make a little extra money and keep the place alive because the tourist business wasn't too good at that time. After the Depression, really what got the business going was really not until after World War II. And they added a building to the property in 1955. And later tore down one of the original buildings there at the cave. And we've been pretty much operating that ever since. There's a chapel that's in the caverns, and at the time, this was in 1949, my father was getting married, and my grandfather thought this would be a great place to get married because he'd be able to use the marriage ceremony and get that into the newspaper and get some free publicity. The business still was, not exactly flourishing, especially back in 1949. We were just crawling out of the World War II. And he had this idea to hire a Lehigh College student as the photographer. This fella took the photos, and they ended up getting in newspapers all around the world, but it got on the wire service. So that was back at a time before the word viral was coined. And I was mystified for years. I've wondered, why? How did this happen? And I said, well, it's just, those flukes of nature that happen. You think, oh yeah, it was just, a slow news day. And for many years after that, people would say, oh yeah, we saw this wedding. But one of the interesting things, when my parents were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, we contacted the original photographer and invited him to the anniversary. We got to chatting because I know he was friends with my grandfather. He said, oh, he's there. By the way, I don't know if you knew this, but I was recruited by the CIA when I was going to school at Lehigh. And as his cover, the CIA helped him establish his credentials as a photojournalist. So it ended up that probably the CIA had a lot to do with getting these photos into this newspaper, and it went all around the world. My grandfather's plan was brilliant, unbeknownst to him.
My name is Grumpy Ward, and we'll be talking about Hellertown Day. Growing up in Hellertown in the 30s and 40s was just unbelievable. We had a lot of fun, the summertime especially, playing with all your buddies. There was no TV, no cell phones, no this, no that the kids have today. We actually played outside, climbing trees, going to the stone quarry, going to the creek swimming. It was just so much fun. Back then we had trolley cars. So on Community Day, the trolley company would bring probably 10, 15 trolleys. They stopped at the end of Hellertown, and this was a big thrill for us kids, getting a ride on a trolley car, riding up through Hellertown, up to Allentown, and I think the trolley lines leave us off at 17th and Tillman Street. From there, Lehigh Valley Transit was starting to get buses, so we would get on the bus and take us to Dorney Park. And that was the thrill of the day, going to Dorney Park, which was Hellertown Day. More or less for us, the Hellertonians, we just went and had a great time in the park. We'd go, the first thing, go to the roller coaster. The roller coaster was the thrill of the day. And we'd stay on again, and stay on again, and stay on again. Maybe we'd go on the motorboat ride, go to the Whip, go to the Fun House. From there, we would go to the Penny Arcade. But in the evening, the fathers and the mothers with our picnic lunches, we'd go under the pavilion, have a picnic lunch, and just spend a wonderful, wonderful Hellertown Day.
My name is Rick Wade, and I'd like to talk about the Mall family, who were prevalent here in Hellertown during the 19th century. I grew up next to Jockey Hollow Park in New Jersey, which was a famous Revolutionary War encampment. So I always had an interest in early American history. Some of the rifles they used then were long rifles. Now, they call them Kentucky long rifles, but really they were developed in eastern Pennsylvania here. One of the prevalent makers of the Pennsylvania long rifle was the Mall family. Peter Mall was the grandson of Johannes Mall. Johannes Mall moved into Allentown. He'd come here from Germany in 1763 and opened a gunsmithing shop. During the Revolutionary War, he helped repair bayonets and rifles, and produced rifles, high-quality rifles, after the Revolutionary War. John Mall III, when he became 21, took over the shop in Allentown. So Peter was his younger brother. Peter was about 3 years younger. And Peter, when he turned 21, it was time to strike out on his own. And he came down here into Hellertown. So he came here probably about 1821 and started making guns and repairing guns. As a matter of fact, his early guns he numbered. And we do have record of number 57 that's dated 1827. So we know probably for a few years before that he'd also been here making guns. A lot of his guns made it all over the world, all over the U.S. And he opened up the Hellertown gun store right here on Main Street, and also opened up kind of a dry goods hardware shop. But that dry goods store was in existence up until almost 1880. Today, it's Hero Electric. You can still go and see the building and walk inside.
My name is Colleen Weiss. St. Teresa's School educates children of all faiths from the Hellertown and surrounding areas. We educate children in grades pre-K through 8th grade. Plans for the original St. Teresa's School were first developed in 1939. The pastor at the time was Father Check, and the Sisters of St. Francis were in residence at the convent. And so the pastor and the sisters and the parishioners at that time wanted a school very badly on their property. And so they began to canvass door to door for monetary support and actually dug the foundation themselves and built the structure by hand. And so the final building was completed in 1941 and a dedication ceremony was held in May. St. Teresa's School is a family community.
My name is Jackie Parker. I went to St. Teresa's School. Loved growing up in that family atmosphere of a small school with small class sizes. And nowadays, I am actually the advancement director at St. Teresa's School.
We continue to enjoy that same support from our parishioners today as those of almost 80 years ago now. We have very dedicated staff, supportive parents, and our focus together remains to be the children.
I would say one of the most unique things about St. Teresa's School is the fact that it does have a family atmosphere. Today, I have found that the teachers working there, some of them actually were there 20 years ago when I was there.
We are rooted in the teachings of the Catholic Church. We instill those values into our children. I think that over the years it has been a challenge for many towns to maintain Catholic education. And so we are better off for being in the borough of Hellertown and having the support of the parish community that we have.
Hi, my name is Lori Jardell. About 53 years ago, Bud Prosser started the Easter egg hunt here in Hellertown. Stacy from the Historical Society decided to pick up the event, and we're here to help her and to support her in the Historical Society.
As a historical society, it's just another way for us to get out in the community and let everyone know that we're here, what we have to offer down at the grist mill. And personally, I love doing things like this, so I had an interest, and glad that our volunteers and the Relay for Life team wanted to help, and again the JC showing us the way, and glad that we can continue to bring this event to the community.
I'm Pastor Phil. I'm interested in talking to you about ham. I think a lot of communities have hams. Ours is Hellertown Area Ministerium. Although people don't know the word ministerium, probably churches would be better, but then it would be hack rather than ham. It started before I was here. I've been here 21 years. So it was already in place when I got here. And most of my experience with other communities have something like that. But this one here in Hellertown is very active. Lutheran churches, United Church of Christ churches, Moravian, Roman Catholic, Episcopalian, and we meet on a regular basis to meet needs in our community. The biggest one that's in place for quite a while has been the food bank, and that's housed at another church, New Jerusalem Lutheran Church. And so that's something that all the churches raise money for, as well as raise produce. Our church has a garden, so we raise produce for the food bank. But all the churches contribute non-perishable goods. We also partnership with the school district. School district is in touch with families that have need, kids that have needs. So from dental, the traveling dental clinic that comes by, or field trips, kids that can't go on field trips, we support that also. The biggest connection I think people know us for is something most people call the crisis fund. Individuals, corporations, churches, endowments contribute funds to HAM that we manage on behalf of them to help people in Hellertown. Whether it might be a medical bill, it might be rent, it might be electrical shut off. We're able to step in and say, hey, we can help you out with that.
I was in, at that time it was called Carson's Hardware Store, and there was a gentleman in front of me. I didn't know who he was, and when he left, the clerk asked me if I knew who he was. I said, I had no idea. It was a Hall of Fame pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Sandy Koufax. And this is a fact that stuck in my mind for years and years, and I couldn't understand why an individual with that fame and notoriety would pick Hellertown. And I found out he picked Hellertown because it was a quiet town where he could live his life out and not be hounded by autograph fans and people in general.
My mother was born in 1926. Her sister was born in 1924. And they lived across the street from the Bethlehem Airport, which is located at the northern end of Hellertown. They were outside playing when Amelia Earhart landed her plane, I think it was in 1929. And they immediately ran over through the fields there to the plane, and Amelia actually left them in their plane, and my mother said she was very kind and very tender, took them up, showed them around in the plane and everything like that. It's too bad they didn't take any pictures back then, or an autograph. They enjoyed their time with Amelia.
Hi, I'm Janie Hecker. I will be talking about the Hellertown Area Library. Library services to the residents of Hellertown prior to 1988 were by individuals going to the Bethlehem Public Library and purchasing a library card in large. So Bethlehem Public Library changed their policy. That put Hellertown in the cold. A small group of citizens in Hellertown decided, let's get a referendum on the ballot and see if we can't get the borough to form a contract with Bethlehem so the citizens had services. When the referendum was put on the ballot, it was defeated. The next step was that some of the citizens who were against the referendum said they weren't necessarily against the borough having its own library. They got together with citizens who felt, well, if we aren't going to contract with Bethlehem, let's have our own library. And this core group of citizens started building a library of our own here in the borough. They rented a facility on Main Street. They started collecting books, furniture, whatever they thought they would need to have a serviceable library for the borough. So I stopped by one morning and said, I have a degree in library science, a minor degree. Could I help you? Well, that got me involved in the library, and from then on, I became pretty active in the whole process. I think the next great thing that happened was one of our state legislators at the time, Jeanette Reedman, she was a state senator, came to us and said, you know, if you people can put this whole thing together and really make it work, I'll give you $50,000 out of the state treasury. And then we found out that you had to use that money on a new building, which became quite a hurdle for us. We had donors of all varieties. We had people that we approached, whom we know could give us large amounts of money. We had middle people who could give us maybe a decent amount of money, but it would be over time. And we had the average citizen who could maybe just donate a few dollars over months. And that was the way we built a campaign so that we could try to raise the money. So we went to the borough and we asked them, would they give us land? And they looked at pieces of property in the borough that were available and finally settled on the site on Constitution Avenue where the library presently stands. So once we had that permission to build there, we went ahead with the building program. And then kind of a miracle happened. A noted contractor in the community, Grant Hufford, got involved. With all his contracts in the trades, he got bricklayers and roofers and anything you could imagine that would help build the library, cement people, anybody, whatever trade they were involved in. He got them to donate not only their time, but sometimes their time, their labor, and their materials. And it was this effort that really allowed the structure of the library to be built. And almost everybody had a hand in it. Even I got to hammer some boards on the floor of the library. In 1993, we were able to open the library in a new building with new shelving, with a lot of new books. Shortly after that, we were able to hire our first librarian, and the library really was out of its infancy and off and running. The library has actually, over the years, not only increased the circulation, of course, with the advances in technology, the library updated all of that. And within the last 3 years, the library has undertaken a renovation project where they have renovated the entire library, the first, second floor. They moved the children's room upstairs. In the future, I see the Hellertown Area Library just continuing to provide for the needs of citizens. The technology age, if it hasn't taught us anything else, it's taught us that we probably don't know exactly where technology is going to take us. But the library will be there to offer whatever resources it needs to the citizens to keep them learning, entertained, communicating with one another. And that's where I see the future to be.
Hellertown is a very caring community. It revolves around people helping people. We have a beautiful town. We have beautiful people that work together to make it a successful town. That is the key, working together.
I just feel as though Hellertown's a great place to grow up in, to bring a family, raise a family, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, and I think it has a great future for everybody.
I just love it here.
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular place. I hope that it's just going to get better and better.
Everyone knows everyone. You know, you don't go down the street without someone waving at you. You know, there's little things like that.
I think it does have a bright future because we can see a lot of the storefronts that have been abandoned and closed are being renovated and opening with further new enterprises.
Hellertown is a good community. If this is what you want a quiet town, we need good people in it.
Well, I've been here a long time. It's a community of people that I feel safe around, who engage one another, who help one another.
I just love being outside, walking, and I just love Hellertown.
It's a way of life, I guess. You can come home from work and you can go outside and relax. You could hear the kids on a Sunday morning playing midget football. Or you go out front with the dogs. It's just a happiness to live in Hellertown.
The hills are beautiful to look at. It's something I appreciate.
It was all family. It was family oriented.
It's definitely changing. It's up and coming, and it's coming alive.
There will always have a place in my heart as the place I raised my children. It's because those memories will always be a part of me.
Those memories will always be a part of her, and I hope they will be a part of your good experience with Hellertown and with your viewer-supported public television station. Welcome back to the PBS 39 studio. You have now seen in its entirety the broadcast edition of Our Town, Hellertown, made by the people and told in the voices of the people of Hellertown. We're very proud of that, and I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you will send a signal to the people who participated and to the station that brought you this program, a signal that you want to see us continue and go forward with more great stories well told on public television. You do that with a telephone call and with a pledge of support to PBS 39. Our telephone number is 800-360-0039, and your $50 contribution would entitle you to to a DVD edition of Our Town, Hellertown. That DVD will contain all 3 acts that you've seen in the broadcast tonight, plus additional stories that we were unable to fit in the broadcast edition, plus much more of that beautiful aerial footage that you've seen throughout the program, plus some old films, some from the 30s and some from the 50s. A nice segment bringing those vintage images and motion pictures to your home library. It's 800-360-0039. Decide the pledge amount that suits you best. But let's get every one of these telephones ringing with pledges of support. We need that final rally to make this a great success. Laura?
Thank you so much, Joe. What was your favorite part of Our Town, Hellertown? Was it seeing some of those archival images and that archive video come to life on your screen and taking that trip down memory lane? Was it thinking about and planting the seeds for what the future of Main Street in Hellertown is going to look like? Well, my favorite part, and maybe yours is too, I feel like I just made 24 or 24 new friends. We were able to capture stories in such an intimate way because you told them. Thank you for letting us partner with the community of Hellertown to tell the story in the residents' own words. We want to share with you that tonight people are watching via Facebook Live, on Facebook Live and on WLVT.org from all across the country, from Florida, from Texas, from California, and more. And here's what they're saying. Somebody just told us the best place in the world to grow up in. Someone else told us, I live in Hellertown and I'm learning so much. And another person told us, I got married in Lost River Caverns in 2001. It was beautiful, all lit up. Our producer John is across the studio with a special guest who might just know something about that.
I want to add one more comment, which I heard, I believe, from Laura after the Champion spark plug segments. I used to drive by that all the time. I never knew that's what it was. I think everyone's learning a little something here, as I have to admit, are we. When you get your DVD, here's another reason why you want the DVD as opposed to what we've shown tonight. When we send the DV out, we will spell Reverend Phil's last name correctly. S-P-O-H-N, and we apologize for that. But your DVD will have it correct. Your DVD will also have what we just saw from this gentleman, Bob Gilman. Thank you for being here tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks for putting this whole show together. This is amazing.
Okay. So, did we do Hellertown justice?
I'm amazed. I'm learning about Hellertown, and I've lived it in my whole life. So, I'm amazed all that you've managed to put together in this show.
Well, you guys put it together. And I can't stress that enough. You know, the stories that you've heard, the voices that you've heard, many of the pictures that you've seen are only because of the participation of people like you and the other folks from Hell. You know what, we have time. Give yourselves a round of applause, will you? Yes. Yes. Not only are they the stars of the show, but they're the ones who told us that we misspelled Pastor Phil's name. Right. So, do you have friends who you think should have this DVD?
Well, they all live in Hellertown.
Okay.
I'll have to mention it to them if they haven't seen the show.
Well, or you could tell them to.
Yes, go to 1-800-360-0039.
Excellent. Thank you. You can't argue with a man who runs a cavern who once told me it's just a lot of air, right?
Well, it's really nothing.
It is absolutely something. If you haven't been there, you got to stay by. And if you have not been to the phones, now is the time to do it. Our time is almost up. If we have not heard from you, let us hear from you now. Joe?
Well, we're gratified by the response we're hearing on the telephones and seeing online at WLVT.org. If you have not yet called, please make that statement. Please vote for more programming like this. Please put some dollars in the PBS 39 budget that we can turn back to you over the next 12 months in the form of quality, non-commercial programming. That is, after all, our mission. You know, I was lucky enough once to be in a room when a small group of people were asking questions of PBS filmmaker Ken Burns. And one of the questions that came up was, Mr. Burns, how do you decide what the subject will be of your next film? And you remember, he's done things like the Civil War and baseball and jazz and the Great War, and there's a Vietnam epic film coming later in 2017 on PBS. And Ken didn't skip a beat. He said, you know, actually all of my films are all devoted to answering just one question. And that one question is, who are we? And tonight, PBS 39 gave the opportunity to the people of Hellertown to ask and answer the question, who are we? And they did a fine job. And I hope that you will want this keepsake, which is a video postcard from Hellertown to the world. You can have your own copy of it on DVD for your $50 contribution. You can have 2 copies of it if you enroll as a sustaining member of PBS 39 with a $5 ongoing monthly commitment. That's 1 copy for you and 1 to share with a friend, perhaps someone special in your life who is connected to Hellertown in some way but no longer lives in the area, who would love to have this great video to reconnect with memories and some information they didn't even know about their hometown prior to watching. It's a great opportunity. I hope you'll get in on the action with your call to 800-360-0039.
Thank you so much, Joe. We want to thank so many of the people who were able to make this program possible. We are going to take a look in just a minute at one of those people who provided food for our staff and our volunteers tonight to truly make this a celebration. Here's a little more about the Springtown Inn.
Hello, I'm Bob Monick, owner of the Springtown Inn, and we're proud to be partners with PBS 39. Located in Springtown, Bucks County, just outside of Hellertown, the Springtown Inn Historical Restaurant and Tavern offers made-to-order entrees and desserts, as well as events and catering provided by Brooklyn Catering. We are open Thursday through Monday for dinner with entrees created by Executive Chef Harry Krager III. More information is available at springtowninn.com.
Part of our mission as a nonprofit organization here at PBS 39 is to be a catalyst for community engagement. I have to tell you that I learned an awful lot from watching this program about the town of Hellertown, but I also learned so much about community. We often give communities names, and they tend to be places: the Lehigh Valley, Hellertown, Bethlehem. But what I learned tonight is that a community is about people coming together, and the power of a team of community-minded and like-minded people that can accomplish great things. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're large, but when they come together, they can make a lasting impression on the community of people that live around them in a very positive way. That's what you can do right here at PBS 39 when you call that number on your screen, 1-800-360-0039, or visit WLVT.org. By reserving your copy, you're not only going to be able to enjoy this program over and over again on DVD, you're also supporting that mission here at PBS 39 to create opportunities just like this for community engagement. We want to thank those of you especially who have become sustaining members. Sustaining members select a certain amount every single month that's deducted from their credit card or their bank account, and that's how they keep their donations current. It can be $5, $10, $20 a month. You tell us the amount that's right for you, and then you join us as a sustaining member. We're going to head over to the producer of this program, John Rice, at this point.
Oh, yeah. I will take credit as producer. I also need to let you know that there's a young man standing beside the camera over here named Brandon Long, who we're calling the co-producer, because he was absolutely valuable in putting everything together. He conducted half of the interviews that you've seen in this show, and is a major, major part of the production team that made that happen. Some other folks we need to thank here: Javier Diaz, who kind of managed the whole editing process, and Steve Kaufman and Jeff Fredericks, who both edited and shot many of the additional materials, and Birdman Steve, with his Lehigh Valley aerial video, is responsible for all of the drone footage you've seen and what you're going to see extra on when you get this DVD. None of this could have happened without the participation of those people I've just mentioned, plus of everyone you've seen on air tonight. And here's another one of those folks here right now, Andrea Danner. Thank you so much for being here tonight. How did you get pulled into all of this?
I'm a member of the Hellertown Historical Society, and your folks were so nice to come and have the first meeting at our mill, and that's when we found out all that you were trying to do and give a good show for Hellertown.
How'd we do?
It was fabulous. And thanks to everyone behind me who did such a fabulous job sharing memories.
So there are a lot of memories, and dare I say, a way to keep those memories alive is to make sure you have your own copy of your DVD. Better yet, that you have one and one to give or to send to a friend, or 2 friends, or 3 friends. You know the math and you know how it works. Do you have friends who need this DVD?
Yes. Call from Pittsburgh, Kristen, Lisa at home, Bethlehem.
What number?
1-800-360-0039.
You can't argue with Andrea, can you? Make the call right now. Our time is almost out, but we're going to go back to Joe.
We want to remind you that the DVD edition of the program is available for that $50 contribution, and a pair of DVDs available to you when you enroll as a monthly sustaining member with a $5 ongoing monthly commitment at 800-360-0039. The clock is winding down. The minutes we have remaining to speak with you and celebrate the great work of the dozens of people in this room who participated in the making of this program. It's all passing away. Don't let the opportunity slip between your fingers to support this hometown public television station of yours and to get a copy of that program. Now, some people are calling to say, when are you going to show the program again? Let me give you the rebroadcast schedule. There will be an Our Town, Hellertown telecast Friday at noon on PBS 39. Also, Saturday, June 17 at 4 p.m. and Sunday, June 18 at noon. So you have a few opportunities to see the program, because if you missed a little, you missed a lot, and you don't want to miss any. So please tune in at one of those times. But right now, while we have your attention, make sure you always have a copy of the program to enjoy, including all of the bonus footage that we're including on the DVD edition with your $50 pledge at 800-360-0039. Laura.
Thanks so much, Joe. As we wrap up this exciting night of special programming, you know, I've heard this program described as a patchwork quilt. I've heard it described as a video scrapbook throughout the night. But really, as I wrapped up, I thought this is a love letter to the town of Hellertown. This is an ode to Hellertown, and there's nobody better to tell these stories than the people who live and work in Hellertown and who make it the great community that it is. Thank you for giving us this platform, and thank you for calling in and joining us. This was an experiment, honestly, for us here at PBS 39. We'd never done anything quite like this before. We leaked a video about a week ago on Facebook, a short video about a minute long, and we said, I wonder how this is going to go. And within 24 hours, it had reached approximately 50,000 different people in states all over the country. That is a special gift that we've been able to create and give to the entire community, something that you can cherish and hold on to if you grew up in Hellertown, if you live near Hellertown. And we really want to thank the people who are in this room with us tonight, because they are the true stars of this show. They put in every ounce of work and energy and effort to make sure that their town and the true story of it is represented in this program. We want to thank those of you who have already called in, but I do want to remind you that it's not too late to reserve your copy. It's simple. Call 1-800-360-0039, and maybe one of the operators is one of the stars of the show that you've seen tonight. You'll have a chance to talk with them right now. Of course, you can also reserve your copy online at WLVT.org, and we have 2 great options. For if you're just looking to reserve 1 copy, we have a $50 option. It's yours for as a thank you gift for your $50 donation to PBS 39. But for those of you who can be extra generous and become a $5 ongoing monthly gift, monthly sustainers, we will make it for those of you who can give a $5 ongoing monthly gift, we would love to give you 2 DVDs as our thank you gift for becoming a sustaining member right here at PBS 39. Now, what's so special about this DVD? Why is it even better than watching it on television? Because some of that amazing archive footage that you've seen sprinkled throughout the program, well, you get a deep dive on that. You get to see extended pieces of video, some of it from the 1930s, and some of it from the 1950s. And it's all been submitted by viewers just like you. We want to send special thanks to the viewers who have given us the permission to use that footage and to share their history of Hellertown and their personal stories. We're grateful, and we're going to head back over to John.
I know we're running short of time. There are a couple more people I need to point out and say thank you to. One of which is David Heinzelman, who could not be here tonight because he wisely was going to his daughter's graduation. We're sorry he's not here, but we know that is a more important event. Dave was one of the big champions, and he also provided Heinzelman's funeral home, which is where we shot the majority of the interviews that you saw here tonight. You also learn things as you go through the night, because I got a message that came to us from Facebook. And here's what Facebook is. I saw it, at least 2 or 3 other people said it. So let me point out that Danny Ruth, we mentioned, gave us that old footage from the Historical Society. Dennis Scholl, who told us the story of Saucon Creek, and Bill Fry, who told just about everybody's story in this, are all, what class, Bill? Yep. Saucon Valley School in 1969. 3 graduates here, all playing a big, big part in this show. And that's kind of the community that we're all serving here. So it is exciting. Your reactions tonight have been phenomenal. We cannot tell you how much it means to us. The Our Town concept has been done at a number of stations throughout Pennsylvania and beyond. Some stations have done 30 or 50 of these shows. This is the very first one that's been done at PBS 39, and while I can't guarantee it, I'm pretty sure we're going to do it again. So give us your call if you haven't done so already. It is going to make this one successful and the next one even more possible. It's 1-800-360-0039. Now let's head back to Joe.
All right, it's almost time to wrap it up in the studio. We're very proud of the work that our neighbors in Hellertown have done to tell the story of their town, the history, what makes the town new and vibrant today. And I hope that it has been an example for you of what a great local public television station can do and can be. And I hope that you'll use this opportunity still as we get on to more programming here on your viewer-supported public television station to make that pledge online at WLVT.org or using the telephone number 800-360-0039. On behalf of the volunteers and my co-hosts and all of the participants from Hellertown, thanks so much and good viewing to you.
Our Town Hellertown is brought to you by
Heinzelman Funeral Home, Inc., with locations in Hellertown and Schnecksville, is dedicated to providing the most respectful service to you and your family. With facilities that include multiple viewing areas, on-site crematory, and off-street parking. We are committed to developing pre-arrangement plans that fulfill your wishes. We strive to offer positive choices for your personal and financial position. For more information, 610-838-0521 or at HeinzelmanCares.com.
Located on Main Street in Hellertown, Advanced Optics is happy to serve their community, which they work and live in. Advanced Optics is committed to providing quality, professional, and personal eye care. For more information, advancedoptics.biz.
For over 10 years, Braveheart Highland Pub has been offering traditional Scottish and American fare with families in mind. In addition to private event space, we also offer outdoor seasonal dining. Enter as strangers, leave as friends. BraveheartHighlandPub.com.
The people of Christ Lutheran Church of Hellertown invite you to experience Christianity as a way of life. We welcome all persons without regard to race, age, gender, sexual orientation, or abilities. You are welcome here. Come join the journey.
The Hellertown Crossroads Hotel has restarted a 65-year casual dining tradition. The new owners have brought back favorites and added others, and are now open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner. Information on their Facebook page and at crossroadshellertown.com. For over 25 years, Hellertown Dental Group has served the family and cosmetic dental needs of our town. Their goal is to offer an unmatched range of services with the latest in dental technology and to do it with true patient care. More information at HellertownDentalGroup.com.
Lost River Caverns has been in business since 1930, committed to providing a unique underground experience to each of its visitors, and strives to offer fine gifts and a full line of products for all aspects of the jewelry and lapidary arts. LostCave.com. Serving pre-K-3 through 8th grade, St. Teresa School emphasizes personal growth, social responsibility, and moral character development, creating lifelong learners for the modern world. Our Catholic identity is modeled through work and example. St. Teresa School.